Hello everyone, welcome to a new part of the Create a Game series. In this part we'll be setting up all of our magical abilities with the skills module. Before we get started, I'd like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the amazing support. Now before we get started, I'm going to make a couple of notes here. One, I'll be trying to record this in my actual native resolution of 1440p. The reason for that is that you just have a lot more information on screen. I don't have to scroll as much. Things are not just, grouped finely together. Let me know if for some reason this really doesn't work. I tried it out and it seems to work just fine on 1080p if that's your monitor's resolution. I don't really see an issue with it, but let me know if it is an issue. Secondly, I know it's been a while since I've done a video in the Create a Game series, and this is a separate project. So the problem with that is that it's also been a while since I've updated this project and its assets. Now, updating to a newer Unity version can cause some issues, but in my case, no issues whatsoever. Updating all of my assets, that's a completely different story. So if I can give you one tip, definitely make sure to stay up to date with all of your assets if you are working in an active project, because otherwise you'll run into quite a lot of issues like I did. So something to keep in mind. So right now this scene is not fully functional. It's still a bit broken, which is why I'm not sharing it on Patreon at the moment. I will be sharing everything we are setting up with the skills module. It's one of the things I really like about the skills module is setting up all of these abilities get stored in data just like the inventory module, for example, and you can easily just copy that over to a new project. That's something that's really cool, so I'll be sharing that. And we have everything we need in order to set up this video, but there's quite a bit of broken references here, which is why I'm not sharing the scene at the moment. So I first need to fix all of that. So without further ado, let's set this up and let's get started. So the way it was working is we had a spell select and I pressed the 9 key and we were throwing a spell. Now the spell itself is fine. I don't really need to change that. I'm going to slightly alter the blending here at the end of the animation, but that's pretty much it. If you are using different animations, you obviously don't have to follow along on that step. Now what we are going to change is the way it was used, and obviously I do want to highlight the very important fact that I am definitely missing some references after my upgrade. It was a messy upgrade, it's been a while, definitely not the best, might have been slightly my fault as well. So that's all fine. We won't be using this anymore anyway, as we'll all be moving it to the skills module. Now a couple of advantages of the skills module. For one is that if you have skills in there, they're not relying on the scene. That's something that is definitely really important. No scene reliance. Two, if you like what you did and you want to set those things up in a different project, you easily can. I mean, that's one of the nice things here. You can just literally copy over that data to a new project like you do with inventory, and it'll all just be there. So that's really cool. But yeah, let's get started here. The nice thing here is the preference window, because it lies outside of the scene, will make it really easy to copy over our actions. So this actually won't take a long time to set up. It will actually be really fast. So first things first, we're going to add a skill here, and we have the example skills installed. So these are none of the things I set up or anything like that. Just want to be absolutely clear about that. We have double jumps, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so jump times. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Mana recovery boosts, pretty cool as well. So yeah, tons of things set up. We won't be using them obviously, so we're going to create a blank new skill and we're going to go over what everything really is. So fireball, let's add that. I'm pretty sure I had some fireball icons already set up. There we go, perfect. Skill type. Now, skill types, just like inventory, that's completely in your control. You name them. These are just the examples. You don't have to use any of that. You can just create your own types and just make it easy. So pretty cool. We have the skill bar. Going to skip that for now. We'll go over that later. We have the execution type. Now this is really important. So instant execute has an impact on what you see here and what you should be using here. Not what you can use it all, but what you should be using here. So instant execute skips the on cost section. So if we do on cost execute, we have an extra time. Now, as you can see, all of this includes a cooldown time as well, which is really awesome. That's something you can actually influence with actions as well. So reduce the cooldown times, etc. Assign that to some skills. Really cool stuff. And we have permanent execute, and permanent execute basically, well, it just means permanently executed. So think of mana regen, health regen. Now I know we don't do that in this project yet, and that's something I'm going to change. Honestly, that's something I'm going to change. You don't have to follow along with that step if you don't want to. Mana regen, health regen are just really common mechanics. I do want it in this project actually, so something I'll be adding in a bit. So we're going to go to instant execute. Something to always keep in mind, I've been playing a couple of games as of late, one of them being Outriders. Now, not the most stellar example, but I do find it a lot of fun. And one of the things I noticed is that if you have to use a lot of abilities, magic, whatever you want to call it, it shouldn't take too long to actually execute all of these in the heat of combat, otherwise it's just plain annoying. So that's something to keep in mind. There's a big difference between what is aesthetically really, really pleasing and what is actually fun and realistic in a gameplay setting. So, keep that in mind. So yeah, I'm going to keep instant execute here. And we're going to be adding a condition as well. Now we have to keep in mind we have stats here and these show percentages, but that's not the actual number. So I had to go at this before. So 25% of the 30 that was set up in the wisdom tab, which is 30, is 7.5. So yeah, that's the value. So when we are going to add a condition for how much mana should we have when executing this skill, attribute value mana, it should be equal to, well, if we have 7.5, it should be equal to 5. Otherwise we can't execute it. You can do 7.5 as well if you prefer that. I mean, it's up to you. So that's one. Execution time 1 second is actually enough. That's fine. Cooldown of 1 second. For now, I'm fine with that as well. If you have the mana, you can execute it. If you don't have the mana, obviously this condition will stop you from using it anyway. So yeah, pretty cool. Then we're going to go to on execute, and this is where we literally will be copying over our steps. So ignore all of the missing conditions. We won't be using that anymore, and we'll just be copying over what we had before. So really simple. So that's 1. That's 2. Yeah. Copy, copy, copy. Now this is where things are going to be mixed up. So as you can see, we were activating a healing circle that was literally just in the scene. So we'll be replacing that with some prefabs instances. It's cleaner that way anyway, so we'll just do that. Now I did set up some variables here, so I'm pretty sure, if you follow along this tutorial, you have a lot more in there. I'm missing some stuff, like I said, upgrading didn't go all that well. So we have Fireball Effect 0.1, Fireball Effect 0.2, and Mana Regen Rate. So I'm going to remove all of that and just, recreate them just for the video. So I'm actually going to just keep it magic effect. So I'll keep it general so we can actually reuse this for other spells as well. They don't need to be just for the fireball. And these are game objects. Now the reason we're doing this is because we want to store the prefabs we are instantiating into the scene somewhere so we can destroy them as well. Because again, this is all living outside of the scene itself. Cool. So let's copy over instantiate of the fireball. And I'm going to duplicate and duplicate that. So we'll keep the last one the way it is. And we'll start off with the healing circle. Now in my scene, I altered the color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy over this color here. There we go. I'm going to look up this healing. There we go. Just noticing now that it's actually not saying circle, it's saying circle. That's funny. I'm going to create a duplicate. So the original is blue. I'm going to duplicate this and we'll create our blue instance, or red instance, sorry, or orangey instance. Let's make sure we alter all of these effects. There we go. So yeah, the beams, everything is now orangey, reddish, whatever it is. And we'll be dragging that one in. Next up we had the TVE explosion. Now because my project isn't fully functional, the explosion is, yeah, it's going to be slightly not working properly. So something to keep in mind for you, it will most likely work fine. Now we do need to see how they were instantiated, so which offsets. So 0.1 and -2. Perfect. So yeah, that's that. So we have all of these set up. Change the state. Wait. Reset the state. I'm going to increase blending a bit here. Now in this case I am going to change the order a bit. I want players controllable at last. Now the wait we had at the end here, that was my manual type of cooldown, which works exactly the same. The only difference is that with the skills module we can actually influence that time with actions, and as you can see this is not a variable option, so advantage definitely here. Now overall we'll need to adjust the execution time a bit, because as you can see this all takes a bit longer. So let's do 3 seconds. I think it's a bit less actually, but we'll keep it at 3 seconds just in case. Because we have some changing the states, resetting the states, 0.25, 0.25. So I'm pretty sure we're actually reaching that 3 seconds. So that's perfect. We just need to add the destroy here for the prefabs we added, and I'm going to keep that in the same place as it was before. So let's duplicate, and this was, let me remove this, magic effect 1 and 2. So let's make sure we're also storing them, 1 and 2. And there we go. Perfect. So we have all of our steps here, so we're good there. Now we need to have a look at the next phase. So that's basically, skill states. Is it locked? Is it not locked? This will be unlocked. Skill points. We don't need skill points. And yeah, it doesn't require any it doesn't rely on any other type of skill, so we should be good here. This basically has it all. Now, I know we set up spell tomes before, so we'll have a look at that as well. So we'll actually change that later on to locked for a reason. So yeah, we're all good here. We should have all of the actions really. Now, one last thing that is important on the player, you need to add this component. So let me remove it and manually re-add it. So just literally type in skills and that's it. So we see use skill bar. For now I'm going to keep that turned off because for now we're not using that. And we have the save skills. We need that. So we have, I'm pretty sure we have everything set up right now. So let's actually give this a go. Now, actually, before I press this, there's something else that's quite important we should be setting up. It's the fact that we're no longer using the spell select, because otherwise we'd still be using that. So let me get rid of that. Let's add a new action. Execute spell. And there we go. Execute skill. So yeah, fireball. So now when we press 9, we're just executing the fireball. Now all of the conditions related to being able to execute this are all in the preferences window of the skills module. So we don't need to do anything like that here. So let's give this a go. And yeah, I mean, that's actually all good. So we're executing the skill, it's all working fine, but you know, we're definitely noticing mana not being subtracted, so I forgot to do that. So even though we have the requirements, I forgot to subtract it. So I'll add that, and then we're actually good to go with everything else. So fireball on activate, let's actually add subtract 5, and there we go. So it requires 5 and it will now subtract 5 as well. And that's literally all there is to it. So you can just repeat those steps for the other skill as well. So that was the fire burst, I think, and that's it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'll briefly show you how to actually set up things like regen as well. Now, yes, this will definitely require some HUD changes. So if we are going to introduce mana regen, which I personally just really like, this isn't, you know, definitely going to be a skill that permanently executes. So there we go. It will always execute. It's unlocked, doesn't use any skill points, doesn't require a certain level, set on self, and this was, let's just do magic. And you know, this obviously won't be assignable. And on execute, what we're literally just doing is change attribute, mana, add, and I'm going to tie this to a variable. Now the reason I'm going to do that is let's add that variable as well. Mana regen rate is because if you want to have skills that could impact this, for example, or temporarily disable you know, the mana regen, then there we go. Yeah, everything. It's always better to do this as a variable, and you know, that's what we're going to do here as well. So we're going to use that as a variable. We're going to add a weight of 0.01. And the reason I'm adding this weight, by the way, I do want to highlight why I'm doing this, is simply because it seems to be more consistent more reliable if there's a small weight. I've had some strange results sometimes without having the weight in here, so that's why it is really small. Let's even keep that smaller. But yeah, it just executes more consistently. So that's it. So we can actually hit play again and actually see what all of this does. So first off, let's actually select our player here and check his regen. Now as you can see, we're regenning even higher than our default value. And yep, there we go. That's all working, and we can't execute it again because we're not at 5 mana. So that's all working. It's all working really well. Now the only problem is, I do want to highlight that usually if you are using a regular type of health bar, this obviously is not an issue. But we went with something less traditional. We went with the hearts and little diamonds here. And yeah, you kind of want to stop this from actually executing past the default 7.5% unless you're raising that. So we'll need to have a look at how we'll do that as well. Now keep in mind that cancel reset skill settings are here as well. So that means we can actually cancel or reset a skill. So that's pretty useful. So let's have a look. And as you can see, this is filling up. We're above 5. We can hit 9 again and it's executing. So perfect, all good. So let's head over to our magic tab here, and we're going to add a new trigger. And this trigger is going to be on attribute change, player, health, and on change, let's just keep it that. I'm going to add some conditions here. And mana. So if this value is greater or, and let's do percentage because we are using percentages. If it's greater than 0.25%, then how are we going to do this? So let's have a look. So if it's greater than 25%, there we go. Let's see if that works. And we have a second clause, so if this is less or equal, so okay, there we go. So 0.24. Then we should execute. Now, given that this is permanent execute, I'm not sure this is going to work. So let's give this a go and see if it actually does something. So let's have a look and see if what we did actually works. I highly doubt it for some reason. Yeah, that's definitely not working. So we can try something else here. So we can try an instant execute. And I'm guessing that this would only work if I, execute it, and it would only work once, and that's it. So that's not really a not really a good method either. So yeah, that's was worth the try, but yeah, that's not working. So let's try something else. So that's a nice thing of having it here, so we can go back to permanent execute. We can do add our restart here. We can add a condition, so attribute value health. No, mana is less or equal to 0. There we go. So let's see if this will actually solve it. So this will be interesting to see. So should have maybe increased the rate a bit so we wouldn't have to wait that long, but unfortunately I can't access my variables. And that's not working either because it's still increasing above our value. So we need to take a different approach here. So let's have a look. We can actually try something different. So I'm going to be removing that entirely. And when I go to my conditions, instead of cancel, which well, won't work, I'm going to try something else. So global variable, our mana regenerate, and I need to make sure how much it was. So 0.01. If it's greater or equal to that, I'm just going to put that to 0. I'm going to then, if it's less, let's do 0.9, I'm going to change the variable number. So despite not influencing the actual skill, this should actually work. So let's have a look and see what happens when we highlight our player. And okay, that's annoying. I'm a bit confused as to why this is not working, because it should actually be working. I did on health change. I honestly can't believe I made that mistake. So yeah, now it's stopping. Okay, so let's actually cast a spell. There we go. Now we're regenning, and let me quickly increase this regen rate, because otherwise we'll be waiting for ages. So let's go back to magic. Mana could have actually prevented everything else from stopping as well. Pretty stupid. I'll admit that. You can actually try to cancel then as well. I'm not sure why I didn't even double check that. So execute skill. I'll remove these, that's fine. If it doesn't work, at least we know the other thing works as well. Let's increase that to 0.05. It's a bit high, but that's okay. Let's select the player, and no, unfortunately that doesn't work. Makes sense because we are using a permanent execute skill, so completely logical, and I'm okay with that. So we'll just take the variable number approach. So 0. And straight away I'm glad we used a global variable for the regen rate. That's perfect. So let's do 0.05. And yeah, everything now should be working exactly as intended. So we still won't go past our, our locked number. So we're getting stuck at that. Obviously, it will happen once because it was equal to, but that's okay. I hit the key, I throw my fireball, and it's regenning. But it will stop once the little diamond is full, if I'm correct. And there we go, perfect. So it's not going past this rate, and we can actually keep our HUDs looking the way it was. So I'm actually really happy with that. We can have mana regen in there without actually having to change the way we use our system with the little diamonds. So even better than I originally hoped for. And this way we can still have some mana regen. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's fun to have. I do think the default rate is a bit high, I'm not gonna lie. So I'll change that to 0.02, and we'll alter that for this one as well. So 0.02, perfect. So really nice. So we used it for something else than I actually imagined, but it's a good solution to our fix. So as you can see, this way we can have regen in the skills module as well. We can have our fireball, and adding fire burst will be a good thing as well. So that's it for this video. In the next video we'll be quickly going through the fire burst as well, just to make sure it's in there, and then we'll be having a look at some of the other things the skills module offers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.